Thursday, it's 6 o'clock. It means just one thing, but not half pop pickers. All right, stay bright. It's time for the ABC of CBD. I want to start off with an apology straight away to everybody living south of the river in London, the swearing and screaming and carrying on. Yep, that was me because my computer decided to malfunction, having been fine absolutely all day. I'm Russ Kane. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a very special edition. Every special edition is special, but this is even more. You're looking very serious today.
You feel so rushy. Like literally
Rushy.
so like I didn't basically like let me just throw something out. Russ has basically just arrived. He was there for like 5 seconds. I was talking to the guest and we've just gone straight into the show. And he's like Speedy Gonzalez today. I love it. I love it. You remind me of me.
Andale.
Anyway, carry on.
Anyway, so have you lost weight? You look extra slim.
Thank you. I'm holding it in. You know, I'm going to try and hold it in for the entire episode. Yeah, I'm doing the whole. I'm doing the Instagram pout, hopefully get us some more followers,
We're doing all right. We're doing okay. All right. I love this show. I really do. It's a labor of love. This is week 37.
Mental.
What the hell? 37 weeks of this. And Ollie and I still have yet to meet.
Yep.
Good evening to Veronica Curran. I feel your pain, Ross. Evening, lovely gents, and good evening to Veronica, who's come across to our main shows during the Daily Show as well. So she's a regular viewer and listener. Ollie, over to you.
So, hi guys. Today's episode is about cannabis and Crohn's. So we've got an incredible guest, Miss Sarah Godfrey. She's got an incredible story. Before I start my introduction and do everything, let's play the sponsor. I'll then give my introduction and do everything else. I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD, a product created by users for users, a product at an affordable price, available everywhere at any time at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil, no additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service, the cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
What can I tell you? They work.
Don't mention the box. Don't mention the box. Every week you mention the box.
I do because it fascinates
I thought
me.
I'm going to get ahead of that box. I'm going to get ahead of it. And there goes the mention. Still did it. He still did it. How you doing, Russ? You doing good today, man? I haven't had a chance to say hello to you yet.
I'm doing all right. That's not why we're here. But yes, thank you. I'm always in a good mood when I manage to get lots of writing done.
Good.
So
you've been writing?
Second novel. So
Gatekeeper number 2.
24,000 words in. Hit the 24,000 word mark today. So that puts me in a very good mood. And it's good to see you. Seeing you.
It's lovely seeing you too, man.
All right.
Seeing you too. So
our guest isn't well, so I think you should crack straight.
Yeah, let's crack on. Like I said, this woman's incredible. So I'm going to speed through the introduction. We're going to get her out as quickly as possible. So as we continue our segment on medical cannabis and patients, we're looking at what people have to do to find answers for a happier health. Now, our guest today has educated herself over 30 years, and she, like many other guests, has lived her trauma and journeyed to find her coping mechanism. Crohn's is a very complicated illness, and as we will hear about today, it's a lot more than just tummy problems. Some people have life-threatening Crohn's, and there is no known conventional medical treatment. Our guest today has found her treatment and is very specific. It is a cannabis treatment, but it is also a very specific cannabis treatment. It's not that broad. It's not that common. Sarah has educated herself, but she has also been very lucky to find something that works for her. Today, we will hear more. Sarah is first and foremost a patient. She is a vocal activist for patient rights. She is a herbalist researcher, focusing on the many benefits plants have to offer, not just cannabis. She's educated herself on the entire wealth of benefits which nature has to offer us as human beings. Sarah will explain more over the show, but her relationship with cannabis and cannabinoids is very unique. As Sarah will explain further, it is impossible to obtain the cannabis medicine, the cannabinoid medicine that she uses on a legal prescription in the UK. It's too much of a unique, specialized product, and it is not supplied in the UK. What she needs and relies on, there's no prescription for. In short, Sarah uses cannabinoid acids. Now, cannabinoid acids are, you could call it a precursor to what cannabinoids become. We've talked about over recent episodes how cannabinoids change. So everything in a hemp plant, it all starts as CBG and then it transitions out. Actually, everything starts as CBGA and then it transitions out through heat and light and time and oxidization and degradation. And generally over time, cannabinoids degrade. Now, what Sarah needs is these key acids, which are located in the plants, and she's going to explain the process at which she obtains them and how other cannabinoid medicines don't work for her. Basically saying that unfortunately, the UK system is not built for specialized medical cannabis applications such as what Sarah needs. The process of extraction and formulation can force cannabinoids to transition and change, and these other cannabinoids don't agree with Sarah, as she's about to say, or many other sufferers of her condition. In more advanced cannabis economies and like America, Israel, etc., cannabinoid acids are more easily available for patients wanting them. But UK patients still left needing have to break the law to facilitate their requirements. There's only so much I can say about this. So let's bring on our guest to share her story and educate us on the plight of this very rare group of Crohn's sufferers. And Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Hi, thank you, Oliver, and hi, Russ.
Hi, Sarah.
Was that okay for an introduction?
Yes, that worked for me. Yeah.
Okay, good. Just making sure. Sometimes people are like, why are you saying that? So I just wanted to make sure. So first of all, thank you for joining us.
And Sarah, we've got hello from California coming in right now. Gloria, hi there. She's in Santa Monica, watching live in Santa Monica, California. Now, Sarah, before we get down to everything, I know because I've read the emails, obviously, you're not feeling too good today. So just please do what you, as I said in my email to you, just do whatever you can, because trust me, Ollie and I can talk for Europe. And you just do,
Thank you.
when you feel too tired or whatever, your throat starts to hurt, you just bow out, and everybody will understand. It's not a problem.
Thank you. Luckily, it's nothing serious. It's just a cold, and the natural remedies I've been taking are working. So I'm feeling pretty good, really. But thank you. Yes, I will.
Well, just saying, like this is a what's it called? You just being here is great, and like I said, as much as we get from you, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you in advance. Thank you for sharing us. Just in case you decide just to click off and leave at any moment, I just want to say I'm going to start by saying thank you. Okay, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing with us, and thank you for educating yourself and being able to educate us today. Now you can click and leave whenever you want because you've got your thanks, which is good.
Thank you.
The first thing I want to say is when we spoke on the phone, you mentioned this word. You mentioned this word, differently abled, okay? And you said, I am differently abled. It's one of the first things you said to me when we spoke on the phone. And I loved it because it's like that whole change in perception. You're trying to change the perception of a disabled individual who is unable to do things and changing it to differently abled. We do things in different ways. So I just want to say, well done for that. How did you coin that term? Just love that term.
I didn't actually coin it myself. There is an organization, I think it's based in America, which is basically a differently abled organization. I'm not sure of exactly the name, but probably something along those lines. But their mandate is to challenge the ableist agenda, really, and to bring to public attention the fact that the word disabled does have negative connotations, and differently abled people, which is a much less negative term of saying it, although it's a bit long-winded. I have tried saying diff-abled, but then it sounds like
that sounds exactly the same as disabled, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's almost exactly the same. It sounds like I'm just lisping disabled.
Sounds like that.
Yeah, diff-abled.
It's completely hopeless.
Yeah, so differently abled is all I've got at the moment.
But I really like that. I really like that.
I've never heard it before. It's good.
To emphasize that people who are differently abled have all kinds of skills and knowledge that is often overlooked.
Oh, Sarah, what do you think about this? Para-abled from Dave Sleet, who's in the whole psycho. Dave Sleet, well done. Para-abled. That's
Yeah,
quite nice.
para-abled. That's got
Para-abled.
into it, hasn't it?
That's all right.
Yeah, it's
Para-abled.
much more easy to say than
Para-abled.
differently abled. Yeah,
I'm
para-abled.
still going to use differently abled. I learned from the Godfrey dictionary of terminology. That's what I do. So, you know, there we go. If that's not respect, I don't know what is.
Vision. The dictionary can always be revised.
So, go on. Let's talk about this. Like how. So you have Crohn's, okay, and you're differently abled. So let's tell us through your journey. Tell us about your issues. When were you diagnosed? What are the conditions you suffer with? You know, it's important to mention you nearly died. So just, you know, if you can kind of give us that background story, talk for us, you know.
Okay. Well, my Crohn's, I'm 49 now. My Crohn's started when I was 17.
Ooh.
And by the time I was, just the day before my 21st birthday, I was diagnosed at the same time as I was told I didn't have long to live. By then, my symptoms were really bad. Vomiting, incontinence, passing out with pain 20-something times a day. And the local gastroenterologist said that the only way for me to survive would be to have most of my digestive system permanently removed, which I didn't want.
Sorry, the line dropped slightly there. The surgeon or somebody said the only way to survive was...
Yeah, the only way to survive would be to have most of my digestive system permanently removed, which I didn't really want to go for. And there was one more thing to try before the surgery, he said, and that was a strong dose of steroids. So I was prescribed a strong dose of steroids for a month, and things improved by 50%. And then after a month, the gastroenterologist told me that the steroids had given me osteoarthritis, and I had to reduce them by one a day. And as soon as I reduced by one a day, my Crohn's went ballistic, and I went from being incontinent 20 times a day to 23 times a day, as well as losing blood and pus down the loo. It was also bits of bowel. My hair started falling out. My nails started falling out. I developed sores in my eyes and my mouth. I bruised to the slightest touch, and that was when I truly believed the doctors that I actually was dying, because it's hard to believe, you know, you believe you're going to make it no matter what the doctors tell you sometimes.
Of course.
The urge to live is very strong in all of us.
What was the 90s, right? So this was in the early 90s, right?
Yes, yeah. And at the time, I'd been smoking an eighth of hash a day in pain relief, mostly in hot tongs.
I've got a quick question though. Just what was known about Crohn's in the 90s? Was it like what was it well known? Was it as educated about as it is now? Do you understand? Is there still a lack of education around it?
There is still a lack of education, although it's much more widely known. I mean, more people have bowel disease now than in the 90s, because all disease is on the increase for different reasons. But, I mean, for example, when I was diagnosed with being given not long to live with Crohn's disease, I was in the 4% of Crohn's disease patients who had life-threatening problems, and now it's gone up to 6%. And I can't remember the exact figures of how many people in the UK are diagnosed with Crohn's, but it is definitely more prevalent, as all diseases from the 1990s. So it became obvious to me that the doctors had nothing that could treat me, because I'd had the strongest drugs and they didn't work. And the only other option was removing most of my digestive system, and I didn't want that. So
what happens if they do that? As in, I understand that whole idea of, you know, we can cut it out, but when you cut it out, as in you need your digestive system. So I mean, it's like, you know, like a doctor saying, yeah, we can cut off your leg. Yeah, I know you cut off, but I'm not going to grow back another one. So I mean, that's not really a cure. It's you just removing the situation. It's like, I don't know. Do you understand what I mean? It's
a drastic measure.
Well, there are many different types of surgery you can have. For example, I know people who have had Crohn's disease just in their colon. I should point out I've had Crohn's disease everywhere from my mouth to my anus, which is why it's so serious. But most people have it just in the large bowel. In that case, I've met people at the specialist bowel hospital that I'm still under in London, who have had their colon removed, their large bowel, and they're able to lead a completely normal life. It's like Crohn's disease is gone. And after around 15 years of living like this, they've got to know their bowel movements so well that they can actually take off the colostomy bag for a 24-hour period and only put it on when they have to actually empty their bowel. So they're living a normal life, really. So I want to emphasise you can have a really good quality of life with a bag on a stoma. It's just that the type of Crohn's implicated the whole.
Absolutely. One of our regular listeners and viewers, Paul Claridge, had all that. He's a great advocate. His story is both remarkable and inspirational. So it is very important, Sarah, the point you're making. It's horrible, but it's not the end of your life. He leads a very active life. He's always rushing about.
There's people who do. However, I've only met one person who has Crohn's in the whole digestive system and has it aggressively like me, and they ended up with about, the minimum amount of bowel left, which was not much. And they had to have intermittent feeding through a Hickman line in the neck because of their severe nutritional deficiencies. And that's the only other person I've met who had Crohn's, and they were on a lot of morphine as well, because with Crohn's, when it's aggressive and affects your whole digestive system, which, as I say, is pretty rare. As I say, in 29 or however many years since I've been diagnosed, I was diagnosed when I was 21 and I'm now 49. So 28 years of being diagnosed, I've only met one other person who has it as aggressively and widespread as me. So there are many different degrees of Crohn's, and there are many different types of surgeries you can have. You can have your large bowel removed, you can have your large bowel and some of your small bowel removed, or you can have your large bowel and really all of your small bowel removed, which is when it gets more difficult.
One of the things, if I could ask before we get on to the connection with CBD, etc., is this. Status quo, the late Rick Parfitt. Well, Rick Parfitt Jr., who's Rick's son, he has Crohn's. And I'm always amazed how he can go from being so crazily active, on stage with his band and driving very, very fast race cars. And then it looks like the next minute he's laid up in a hospital bed, unable to move. There's a huge disparity between when he isn't being attacked by it, if I can put it that way, and when he has it. It's like two totally different people.
Yeah, it's highly variable and it's hidden, which is why it's so confusing for people to understand. I frequently get told things like, oh, well, at least it's not life-threatening, and then I have to explain I've nearly died 3 times now from Crohn's disease. It is, it can be life-threatening, it's just very rare. But yeah, it's highly variable. There's days where, since I've been taking cannabis oil, I have days where I can appear to be normal, and then I can have days where I can't get out of bed still, and I still have bad days. So it's highly variable, and it means that my protocol can often be a juggling act, but it works. It works.
Right. When you say your protocol, sorry, just so does that mean your medicinal regime? I don't know what else to say. Is that what you mean?
Yes, it means a strict daily regime of herbal medicine and functional nutrition, basically.
Right. Okie dokes. Got it. Right.
So the pharmaceutical meds you've been on, okay, because you don't take you don't take any pharmaceuticals anymore, do you? But over the course of your life, you have been on steroids. You had a brief stint on codeine, and then you had a stint on morphine as well, right?
Yes, it wasn't a brief stint on codeine. It was actually 18 years on dihydrocodeine. And about 14 years on morphine and diazepam and an anti-epileptic.
And this was for the Crohn's, right? This was for the pain.
Yeah, I had severe pain because, when I talk about having, severe Crohn's, it's aggressive. It affects my whole digestive system. I paid a very high price for not having those damaged disease bits removed because I've suffered really severe pain and nasty symptoms on a daily basis for 25 years.
It's a miracle, to be honest, Sarah. It's a miracle you're here.
No,
I'm serious.
it's not a miracle she's
absolutely
here.
amazing.
It's not a miracle she's here. We've got the story for how she's kept herself here, which is the most.
Right.
I want everyone to actually understand what Sarah's gone through before we kind of move in, because I made that mistake on the phone. I jumped straight into the story without actually understanding what she had been through. And when I reread over my notes, I was a little bit like, oh wow. I think it all just kind of re-hit me after the conversation. I was like, when you start putting things into perspective, it's incredible what Sarah has learned and what Sarah has brought into her life. And I think it's really important that other users out there and other sufferers out there know what she's done, because if it helps even one other person on the planet, that's all this show is about today. Do you know what I mean? Getting through to one other person. Exactly. So you had 14, 15, 16 years on codeine. You had the stint on steroids and the stint on morphine. Now, you don't use any of that anymore.
No, the stint on steroids was only a month long because my symptoms became so bad that was back in the 90s. That was when I realised that there was no treatment the doctors could give that would actually treat the Crohn's. And that was when my mother made me see a medical herbalist. And I said to her, look, am I going to die? I'm losing bits of my bowel down the toilet, my hair's falling out, my fingernails are falling out, I'm in agony, vomiting every day. And she said, no, I don't think you will die if you do a non-surgical rest of the bowel, which involved an 8-week fast with slippery elm powder and herbal tea. And for the last 4 weeks of the fast, I had raw juice, beetroot and carrot as well. So that was how I actually saved my life, was fasting for 8 weeks. And it was quite handy.
You fasted for 8 weeks?
Yes, but by that point, it had become so painful to eat that it was a pleasure. Eat every mouthful of food or sip of water was like swallowing razor blades.
Oh my God.
Because when you have severe and extensive ulceration through most of it's hard to describe the agony.
No, I think we've got. To be honest, I think we've got it. It sounds.
Imagine your entire digestive system was a road full of potholes, and you're driving your brand new Lamborghini down that pothole-ridden road. And imagine the thought you're feeling. Okay, that's not even half the amount of pain she's feeling. Do you understand? Just to put things into perspective, you know, like. Yeah. Just everything would hurt. So tell us more about herbalism, because that was like the start of your journey, right? This 8-week cleanse opened your eyes to this world of herbs.
Yeah, because at first, when I first started, I've had loads of people say to me, oh, it only works because you believed in it. But I really didn't believe in it. I only went on the 8-week fast and the slippery elm and herbal tea because my mother emotionally blackmailed me and said,
Can I stop you there for a second? Can I stop you there for a second, Sarah? That's a fascinating thing. People said it only worked because you believed in it.
Yeah, I've had.
Well, that's just bonkers, isn't it?
I love the fact that she just dropped. She didn't believe in it. I think that's incredible. Yeah, I think great. That's better. That's even better than it only worked because you believed in it.
But it's completely bonkers. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. You know.
My lovely partner has just brought me an onion around my neck to help my cold virus, so I'm just going to put it around my neck to help me.
No vampires where you live. Okay.
Welcome to the
help. It does actually help.
I said this in the most complimentary way to Sarah on the phone. I said she's the closest thing to a witch that we're ever going to meet, and I feel a little bit like a wizard. So I mean that in the most complimentary way. Her bringing that onion around her neck has only just solidified that thought into my brain. Hilarious. I love it. I love it.
Oh dear, well, my other half is a bit of a wizard as well, to be honest.
I'm so sorry, it's killed me.
Yeah, the cat's not nice.
Good.
That's killed me with the onion.
On the onion, the cat's not sure she wants to sit on the onion.
We're being a bit rude. We haven't asked the name of the cat, and then we can get straight back to.
It's Elsa.
Elsa. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Radio. I thought it was going to be something creepy like Nosferatu or something. I was getting a bit worried when I saw the onion.
No, my cats I've got 3 cats, and they've all got silly names like Fluffy or Socks or Elsa. They're all, real.
They're nice names, right?
They're
okay,
names.
So you're on this 8-week fast, which is amazing, and then
you didn't believe in it, but you
didn't believe in it. Yeah.
When I first started taking it, I didn't believe in it. My mother just made me do it because she didn't want me to die, and I just said, well, the first time my partner at the time made me the herbal tea and the slippery elm and I drank it, I think I was so angry because I was in so much agony and I really didn't want to die in agony.
Yeah.
So I remember drinking the tea and going, oh God, this tastes like a field of hay. And I think I actually threw it at the wall, I'm ashamed to say, along with lots of swearing. And I was really like, what the hell are you trying to do to me? How can drinking something that tastes like a field of hay help me when the strongest steroids couldn't? And my partner at the time said, look, your mum has gone to a lot of effort and paid a lot of money for this tea and these herbs. Just take it for her sake. He said, just do it for a week, if nothing else. So I thought, yeah, okay, I'll just do it for a week just to stop my mum nagging me, really. So that I can say, when just before I die, I can say, I tried it, you know. But that didn't happen because I started getting better and all my symptoms started improving. And at the end of the first week, the difference was so noticeable that I had to continue because suddenly...
At the end of 1 week? Wow.
Yeah, to be honest, it was noticeable straight away because the slippery elm was instant relief for my ulceration. I mean, I still drink slippery elm every day now. I have slippery elm near me all the time.
I thought this is what you're saying, slippery elm.
Yes, it's the powdered inner bark of the elm tree, a particular type of elm tree, slippery elm, because it has, when you mix it in water, it has a slippery texture. And this powder...
Sounds tasty.
So it's like a lubricant.
It's a kind of, but it's actually anti-acid, anti-inflammatory, anti-ulcerative, anti-proliferative. It's also one of the teas in SEAC tea for cancer. It has an anti-cancer action. And it's anti-sickness. So every time I have nausea and stomach pain, I go straight to slippery elm and it's instant relief. It's like putting a cool wet towel onto a fire.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Herbs.
Beautiful.
So carry on. So you get to, let's say, week 8, you're alive, okay, and therefore you can't throw it in your mum's face, which is a shame, you know. We all wish we could throw that, you know, like, told you, mum, you know, write her a letter or something.
Yeah.
Really mean. I told you this was going to happen, mum. Have fun. You know, something screwed up, so you couldn't do that. And then you you couldn't do
more
that.
About you,
and
Ollie,
then,
than it does about Sarah. But
and,
all right.
and then you became a believer.
Yeah, by then I couldn't deny that it was working because my symptoms were so much better. The pain had decreased, the blood, the bits of bowel, the pus, the vomiting, everything. My hair stopped falling out, my fingernails stopped falling out, my sores started to heal in my mouth and eyes. Everything improved. And after 8 weeks, my herbalist told me I had to basically start eating again, but I had to be really careful. And I basically had to relearn to eat, which meant chewing each mouthful 10 to 20 times, which I still do because if you have significant problems absorbing your food, as I do, you need to start digestion in the mouth. It's crucial that you chew each mouthful until it's no longer solid. You know, you need to start those digestive juices mixing. By thoroughly tasting your food and chewing it, you set off cascade reactions of chemicals in your digestive system, which are necessary to achieve proper digestion. It's a complicated process. It's a series of chemical reactions that happen at various points throughout your digestive system. And yeah, chewing is essential. So I started to relearn to eat and I had to introduce food slowly and carefully one by one. And it was kind of like an elimination diet, really. My herbalist suggested foods that I should try that would be relatively safe. For example, oats were my first food, just porridge made with just water, nothing else, no salt, no nothing, just water and oats. And I could actually eat without passing out with pain for the first time in a long time. So I spent the next 2 years gradually building up foods and learning what I could and what I couldn't eat. My diet was extremely plain and extremely poor, really. And 2 years after that, I ended up nearly dying again from Crohn's because it turned out I had a perianal fistula, which is it was a hole in my rectum which had leaked diarrhea into my body.
Oh, God.
Somewhere around 18 months or more. And it had caused basically caused a huge abscess in my left buttock that destroyed destroyed a huge part of my left buttock, up into my left groin. It affected a collapsed disc in the base of my spine. I nearly died of septicemia. And then I really was left in agony because I had a huge amount of scar tissue. It was from the fistula. It was so big, the abscess, and so bad that they thought that to treat it at home, I didn't want. I was told
You
that.
poor girl. You poor girl. And when you were like 22 years old, 23 years old at this time, right?
23, yeah. I had my
Yeah, you're a
Right.
kid. You're a kid going through this. I know we're speaking to an adult, but you're like, you got to imagine, like, you know, a kid who, like, it's just not something which 20-year-olds need to go through, should go through in that. It's not anything anyone should go through in their lives. But I mean, you know, whilst your friends are going out getting drunk and, you know, rolling down hills, you know, like,
yeah, I was.
sorry,
Glimpses
sweetheart.
world of Ollie Mammon there. Listen, here's the thing. If you're wondering, if you're sitting at home, you're listening on the MRS app or whatever it is, wherever you're listening, and you're thinking, why are we going into such detail? I'll tell you why. Because I don't think it should be glossed over. Number one. You don't get this on Lorraine or Good Morning and all the sanitized stuff. You won't get it. They just say, oh, here's Sarah Godley. She had Crohn's. Oh, you're looking well. Have you been on a diet? I mean, you know what it's going to be like. So the idea is you have to understand, and it's pushing me to my limits, I'll be quite frank with you, Sarah, but you have to understand just how horrific this was, which makes the other side of the story even more remarkable. So it's not trying for shock value. It's so that we can be grown up and really understand what somebody like Sarah has endured. I just wanted to put that out there. Anyway.
Thanks, right. I probably should have done a warning before I went into all that gory description. But to be honest,
I didn't want supper anyway, so I'm okay. Don't worry.
I don't think of it as gory. I've lived with this for 7 years.
No, we like doing this on the show. We like showing people we like showing people reality. So then when, you know, you start throwing out why people use an illegal compound or a, you know, like when people start throwing around the word like cannabis, it's like, all right, this actually saves lives. You know, that's why we do it, because it's important that people know where someone was in order to make that decision. Why didn't you just try standard pharmaceuticals? Well, she tried absolutely everything. That's what we try and get through to our listeners. So just to add a bit of validation to Russ's, you know.
Thank you. Yeah, it's also relevant to other diseases.
Love you, Russ.
The symptoms of my Crohn's, even though, as I say, it's the most severe type of Crohn's, it's rare to have it that bad. Most people don't have it that bad. But the symptoms can be very similar to terminal cancer. And I found that the same things that help aggressive terminal cancers help my aggressive Crohn's. Wow. So it's been an interesting learning curve over the last 7 years since I started making and taking oil to see those similarities.
So let's go back to 23. So 23 nearly died again. Did you do another cleanse?
Well, to be honest, I was still on a detox diet. You know, my diet was so strict and so plain. I was still doing all the herbal tea and everything. It's just that when I'd had the severe ulceration and numerous polyps that had nearly killed me when I was 21, I had healed all the ulceration and polyps. However, during that time of the ulceration starting and between then and me healing it, one of the ulcers in my rectum had become a hole and become a fistula. So that was why I ended up in
hospital again.
Later. So I was still doing the strict diet, the strict herbal protocol. But the downside of this was that I was left with a lot more pain, because not only did I have all the internal scarring that I was slowly healing with my herbal teas and slippery elm and smoking and eating cannabis whenever possible. I was also left with a lot of external scar tissue around my left buttock, the base of my spine, my groin. It trapped my femoral artery. My sciatic nerve was getting trapped by the collapsed disc that had a lot of scar tissue close to it. I was also diagnosed with severe osteoporosis at the same time, because my diet had been so restricted and my digestive system had been so badly damaged that it could not absorb nutrients for quite a long time.
It's like the domino effect on everything, isn't it? It's like one thing caused another thing. The steroids caused arthritis. You know, like it's mental. So you carried on down this route of herbalism, okay? And you've started to, you know, like you as a herbalist, I call it herbology, but I know that's not the right term. So you carried on down this route, and you've actually spent a lot of time studying it and you've basically put a lot of energy also into understanding cannabis, and you've kind of brought the two worlds kind of together, and you've got this incredible understanding of plants. So that's what, if possible, I would like to move into now. What came first? Okay, so what came first, the herbalist side or the cannabis side?
The cannabis side, because when my crisis first started, I knew nothing about herbalism. It wasn't a part of my life. The only thing that was a part of my life was alcohol and nicotine. And I happened to, first of all, I tried drinking alcohol for the pain, and it just made it worse. And I passed more blood, and it just got worse. And at a party, a friend passed me a joint of cannabis and tobacco, and I smoked it, and it actually helped my pain. So I thought, right, I've got to find some cannabis, and then that is how it all started. And cannabis did seem to be the only thing that really worked on the symptoms, but it had to be a specific type of cannabis, which was a specific type of hashish. Mainly Moroccan hashish, that I then later, many years later, would get tested and would find was roughly 1-to-1 CBD to THC, and this was undoubtedly why I was craving it, because I could get skunk, but it didn't work on my symptoms. The skunk really didn't work on my symptoms like, sorry, my lovely partner.
It was a postman. Late night delivery.
He brings you an onion. He brings you tea. I mean, I'm sitting here, no one's bringing me anything.
He's Vice President Onions.
I'm sorry, he's not bringing you tea and onions.
If I don't get my own glass of water, no one cares about me.
It's all right. I got a dog.
Oh, yeah, that's
monkeys.
So right, yeah, that was the cannabis came first, and I was smoking an eighth a day neat in hot tongs and pipes when I got diagnosed with Crohn's, because by then I was passing out with pain over 20 times a day every day, and the symptoms were just horrific. So I needed a lot of pain relief, a lot of symptom relief. So the cannabis definitely came first, but then I found, when I started the medical herbalism protocol, I found that the cannabis worked really well with the herbs, and they seemed to complement each other.
Here's a point, because this crops up a lot, and you're the perfect person to ask. You said you tried alcohol, which is logical. I can understand that. Try and numb the pain. It made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And no relief at all?
No relief at all. The only alcohol that does not make me ill is tincture alcohol, which would be 62% and above, and it would be pharmaceutical quality. And I discovered this about 25 years ago when I was living on a bus, actually, and a friend of mine was distilling alcohol, and I was very ill. It was when I had fistula and I had septicemia. I was in a lot of pain. And they put a few drops of their alcohol on my tongue, and it was the first time since my Crohn's had started that I had alcohol, and it was not aggravating my Crohn's because it evaporated on my tongue, and it was really good quality alcohol. My friends used to distill to make tinctures, and that was when I first became aware of tinctures. So about 15 years ago, when I became well enough, I started distilling my own alcohol and making my own tinctures. So
and those tinctures...
that doesn't make me ill. Yeah, sorry. The tincture alcohol won't make me ill. I dilute between, I don't know, anywhere between 10 and 15 or 20 drops in a glass of water. So it's diluted, it's high quality, and I do not have it every day because my liver and my lymphatic system are compromised by the septicemia from the fistula. I don't do alcohol every day. It would be really stupid of me to do that.
Okay.
Well, Russ loves alcohol. He's part of clubs which are alcohol based. I am not the biggest alcohol drinker. I will have a beverage if it's there, like a little ginny tonic. I don't mind it, but I mean, it's not really. I don't keep bottles by the bed. Because that's just me.
You don't wear onions around your neck either. Come to think of it, Ollie.
I'll be honest with you. I'm half French, so I should be wearing onions around my neck. It's like a standard thing.
And it
reminds me of the motherland. Do you know what I mean?
And surrendering to somebody. Anyway, moving.
So let's talk about your current medicine. So you smoked hash for a few years. You found out that, that the hashes you were using were good. And then around age 40, you said like a few years ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, you had a heart attack, right?
Actually, it was in 2012. I had a heart attack and gave up
9
smoking
years ago.
and cannabis, and then I had a break for 6 months from smoking completely, and then I bought a vaporizer and started vaporizing cannabis 6 months later. But vaporizing, and so that was 2012, and then 2 years later I came across the oil and started making the oil. And I found that the oil was so much more effective on my symptoms than vaporizing. But as we discussed on the phone, Oliver, it was a certain type of oil made at a certain temperature, which was 1-to-1 THCA to THC. And this was the only oil that worked on the symptoms.
Now, THCA is like a plant-based acid. Now, plant-based acids are very, very hard to extract from the plant. Now, most people don't even know these acids exist. When most people think about a cannabis plant, they think simply in terms of THC and CBD, CBG, CBN, CBC, and other cannabinoids, which are very much singularized. But there are A's, B's, C's, D's of all of these cannabinoids, which are like slightly degraded or slightly changed or different isomers. And there are loads of different compounds in that plant. Now, what Sarah has found is that certain compounds in this plant work better for her. Now, I would love you to tell the story of how you found this out, because it is such a, like you can't write this. It's physically like you can't write this. You can't like it doesn't make sense. So, I mean, like if you're happy to tell the story, tell. If you're not happy to tell it, don't tell it. But if you're happy to tell it, tell it.
I'm happy to tell it. Truth is certainly stranger than fiction. That is for sure. Can I just say, though, before I do tell the story, how I came across this oil at low temperatures? It is easy to extract cannabinoid plant acids because, for example, today I've just taken a dried flower of CBG and put it in a smoothie. Now, that will have some CBGA as well as CBG in it. Not as much as if you took the raw flower from the plant still growing, but that's how easy it is to extract cannabinoid plant acids. You just put a bud, either dried or fresh, in a smoothie. Fresh is better, but much harder to get, obviously.
So it's more logical to be like eating fresh cannabis flowers as opposed to running an extraction on them or smoking them. So it's basically like treating it like any other vegetable, and like raw leaf diet, or what's it called, like leaf juicing and stuff like that. Now,
yeah, with the raw leaf that I'm drinking now of THCA. However, if this was the raw flower, it would be providing a lot more symptom relief, because the symptom relief is very mild in the leaves here, because my outdoor plants aren't flowering yet, and I haven't got anything indoor going on at the minute.
So, have you noticed how disciplined I am? I didn't even ask the bit which just slipped by, but it hasn't to me. I was living on a bus. I didn't even go there because we haven't got time. No, are you growing this out? Because where's the flowers?
don't ask those questions, Ross.
Oh, all right, they're coming from a place.
To grow outdoors and indoors, and in an ideal world, I would have 3 huge outdoor greenhouses: one for CBG, one for CBD, and one for THC.
Yeah.
However, I haven't got that amount of room or help yet. So what I'm doing is growing outdoors and in a small indoor space, which is really difficult because I have
a cat.
Well, yeah, the cats are pretty. They aren't too bad.
3 cats.
They do like to eat the raw leaf.
Of course.
They're not too bad with the bugs. But yeah, the reason I came across these cannabinoid plant acids to start with was the first time I made oil. Myself and my partner made it, and it was we made it following instructions online, which was basically soak it in alcohol, strain it, simmer it to remove the alcohol, and then you're left with a thick black paste, which I took, which made me really ill. And I was so, I was really, really upset about this, and said to my partner, right, that's it. I've had enough. The oil, typical, my body is so weird and different to most people's, because what most people are saying works for them is aggravating all my symptoms.
Yeah, this is like the standard, most basic cannabis-based product, which 99% of people out there who say they use a full spectrum cannabis product, that's the product they use and get benefit from. Sarah had no benefit from that.
No,
Is that the black paste? Just for my own education, Ollie.
Yeah, it's like the
Is
black
that
paste.
the black paste that you've shown?
Exactly, it's very similar
Okay.
to that, but it's
all right.
higher in THC, not higher in CBD. So it's a
Okay.
sort of stuff which a lot of like Philip Anthony Bevington. That's
Yep.
the product he will be getting from. Like he'll get a product made out of that from Project 21, and then most people, like most like cancer patients and stuff who use cannabis oils, that's the cannabis oils they would be using. Sarah though got gifted something by the lords of
Providence.
chance, lords of
Lords
chance.
Providence.
yeah,
The Lords of Flatbush.
I'm not sure what laws it was, but it's bloody lucky for me. So I'd given up on the oil now because it aggravated all my symptoms. So I said to my partner, I've had enough of it. You know, this is so typical. My illness is so awkward. I've just had enough. And he said that he remembered in the 1990s he'd been at a food festival and he'd taken acid with somebody who'd worked in a laboratory with cannabinoid scientists. And they talked about cannabinoids, and this person had told my partner that cannabinoids shrunk at high temperatures. So my partner said that he had a strong feeling that human blood temperature would be a good temperature to make it at, 37 degrees C. So I said to him, by then I was so depressed and demoralised and feeling ill because all my symptoms had been made worse by this oil at high temperatures.
And exacerbated by this, what was going to help?
So I said to him, look, I can't be bothered with this. I've lost patience with it, but if you want to make it, then go ahead. And he did. He made it at 37 degrees C and gave it to me, and it was amazing medicine. It treated all my symptoms. It was completely different.
So let's just pause there because everyone will be going, whoa, hang on a minute, because it sounds all a bit Disney. So we've done the Delia Smith recipe, that didn't work. Now we're trying the Nigella recipe. When you took this new stuff at 37 degrees centigrade, what happened? Was it instant, or was it over a few days or a week, or what's the story?
Within seconds of touching my gums.
No way.
It was amazing.
Wow.
I put it through my mouth because I was trying to test it out. I was scared to swallow it, to be honest, until it started taking an effect, because I thought, he's tried really hard to make me great medicine, but I've been...
Nothing's worked for you. So you're in this position where nothing's worked for you for 30 years or 25 years. Nothing's worked. And why would this work? I don't want to sound this is so mean. Your partner has an acid flashback and he has an idea on a flashback, and like what the chances that's going to work? I mean, if that's not a gift from God,
your partner isn't an airline pilot, by the way.
No, but if that's not a gift from God, I don't know what is. I mean, if that's not like divine intervention or something, it's incredible.
It did feel like a gift from God, because the relief to my symptoms was in seconds, and I said, "Wow, this is incredible!" And started making it and never stopped, basically. And a year later, I had it tested in a laboratory, and it came back as 1-to-1 THCA to THC. And it's pretty easy to make, as long as you make it between 37 and 40 degrees C. I mean, you don't have to be that precise. You could even go up to 42 or 45 degrees C, and it will have roughly equal quantities of THCA to THC. But it wasn't until I saw a webinar, I think it was in 2015 or 16, where they had actual cannabinoid scientists speaking, who were talking about THCA and said this is a more powerful anti-inflammatory than THC, and suddenly I understood why this 1-to-1 THCA to THC oil works so well. By the way, I did spend a lot of time and effort over the last 7 years experimenting with various ratios of THCA to THC, and I did, after the first year of taking huge amounts of 1-to-1 THCA to THC oil, I started suffering from anxiety, and then I started making oil from hashish, which was 1-to-1 CBD to THC, and mixed it to provide some CBD with my 1-to-1 THCA to THC oil. However, it still wasn't, the hash oil is fantastic, but it doesn't work as well as the 1-to-1 THCA to THC. So I had to find another way of making that oil calming. So in 2016, I was very lucky to get gifted CBD seeds from a 20% CBD, 0% THC plant, which I then made the same way at 37 degrees and made 1-to-1 CBDA to CBD oil. And then I tried that out on the symptoms, and it was great for anxiety. It was also great for nausea. CBDA is fantastic for upper digestive tract symptoms of nausea, pain, inflammation. It's also a really good antidepressant. There's a real fascinating link between the gut and the brain. The gut-brain axis is little understood, but the same oil that works fantastically on my stomach pain and nausea and malabsorption also works on my brain fog, and also works on people's severe seizures, and also on regressive cancers. I mean, particularly THCA to THC oil, which seems to work extremely well on cancers.
What's incredible is that your journey has been so unique, but you've put in so much time. You know, this isn't something which you've decided over the last 6 months and you're standing up saying, I need this in 6 months. I know I need it. I'll put 6 months in. You know, this has happened over, 30 years of learning yourself, 25 years of learning about herbology and how to best use herbs and understand herbs, 7, 8, 9 years of refining your craft as a grower, and then continuously refining that craft. And once again, knowing yourself so well that little small tweaks to your product make it that much better. And so we've talked about this subject before with Dr. Kelly Seaman. I talk about the subject of hidden knowledge, the things which you basically, that are things about cannabis that you only learn on the job, the things that you can't teach someone this, because if you like, unless you live it, you don't understand why you're going through all these processes. That was the thing. Of course, at the end of the day, she has a 1-to-1 THCA to 1-to-1 THCA to THC to CBDA to CBD. She's got a 1-to-1 ratio across all of them. Good, she's sorted. But it's not that simple. It's taken Sarah years to find what actually works for her, and she's suffered through a system that wanted just to cut her to pieces. And I think it's really important to understand how personal journeys are with cannabis, and that Sarah's done a lot of hard work, so listeners out there might not have to, and it's important. Like knowledge like this has to be respected. Knowledge like this has to be shared. It has to be listened to. And like I said, if we get through to one Crohn sufferer tonight who's got the same ailments as Sarah, who suffers in the same way, maybe this might be a little insight into how you can make your life better. And I think it's incredible. But you're carrying on your education, right? Because you're studying at the moment. You're studying medical herbalism.
Yeah, I've taken the foundation course in it, and I hope in the future to finish the degree. It'll be another 3 years of study that will be part residential with 500 hours supervised clinical practice. But that is my ultimate aim, because to me, cannabis is just one of the many herbs I use. And it seems that cannabis and other herbs work really well together. For instance, I'm now taking this oil that I made a month or two ago, which is 20% CBD, 0% THC, infused into a chamomile carrier oil. And the chamomile and the CBD go so beautifully together.
Chamomile is so good with CBD, especially like for sleep and stuff. You take a chamomile over a lavender, and especially like infused oils is something I've started doing a lot of, because I find that there's just a hell of a lot more you get out of a whole plant infusion than you will get out of anything else. And because you're doing it in oils, it's so light. It's not like you get it's not like, so a lot of tinctures, a lot of herbal tinctures are done in alcohol, so they are a little bit rough. But a chamomile oil is so light and so fragrant and quite floaty. I mean, I love messing around
Sarah,
with that.
I'd like to jump in with some of there's some questions. There's a very good question coming in from Dave C. Let me just rush through some of the comments. Chrissy Holt, who lives in Spain, by the way, Sarah. So we've got Santa Monica, California watching, and we've got Spain as well. Hi, everyone. Good show. Brave woman. That's you. Veronica Curran, biggest issue is getting this out there. This is your story and what you've been through. Getting it out there for others who don't have this knowledge. It's so vital for sufferers. Couldn't agree with you more. And we've got Mitch Bly, who just said,
share the videos, share the videos, and that's how it gets out there.
Yeah. Share the videos, everybody. We're on, if you want it, it's on Men's Radio Station on the YouTube channel, just share them. You're very welcome. That's the whole point of us doing it. Now, Chrissy, Sarah, by the way, well done for getting through the show, because you were going to only give us half an hour. So there we are.
Well,
I think it's the magic onion. I think it's the onion.
It's partly the onion. It's got a lot to do with the CBG smoothie I had just before this, which has made me feel bloody great, to be honest.
Amazing.
Oh, okay.
It's probably given me an extra.
Sarah, I'm going wild. I'm having a glass of water, but I put some cucumber in it. That's as wild as I get. Well, here's a question this is a question to you, Sarah Godfrey, from Dave Sleet. Is the balance dependent on an individual's metabolic functioning?
Does he mean the balance of THCA to THC?
I'm guessing so.
About
I'm not an idiot. I'm looking for someone to nod, of course. Let's just assume he does.
Okay. Well, that would be described as a ratio. The difficulty is that everybody has a slightly different reaction to these ratios, because everybody's endocannabinoid system is individual. For example, my best friend died of 2 aggressive rare cancers in 2016, and she had a terrible reaction to THC. And I thought it would be so easy to treat her cancer, because the one-to-one THCA to THC oil that I made for myself and some other people's cancers that work really well on their cancers and my Crohn's, she couldn't tolerate it because she suffered from severe paranoia, and it was kind of heartbreaking, to be honest. I didn't have.
Oh, she suffered from severe paranoia after taking the.
She reacted very badly to THC and THC, and unfortunately, one of the complexities of cannabinoid medicine is that it's very individualized, because everybody has a different reaction. So, I would say to Dave, if you have Crohn's disease and you don't suffer from anxiety, then try a one-to-one CBD to THC ratio. If you do suffer from anxiety, go for something CBD dominant, and you'll be much less likely to have anxiety.
Yeah, like a 3-to-1. 3-to-1, 4-to-1. You know, like the best thing about CBD as well is CBD doesn't get stored by your system, and it's not one of these compounds where it's more the merrier. So CBD as a compound, what you don't use basically gets flushed out of your system. It's not like THC. The more you take, the more effect you have. So if you ever have any anxious effects with THC, I do suggest just bully it up with a whole bunch of CBD, and it should give you all the benefits of CBD whilst also reducing any sort of anxious effects you get.
It will. It is important to consider, though, that if you have severe or acute pain, you will need 1-to-1, because 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 CBD to THC won't work on severe and acute pain. But back to Dave's question, it's the ratios are determined by temperature, the temperature that the oil is made at. So, for example, if you want what I consider the most anti-inflammatory oil, which is 1-to-1 THCA to THC, I would evaporate your oil at 40 degrees. And that will be the most powerful anti-inflammatory. If you suffer from anxiety, then you would want to mix that with some CBD oil. Again, if you can get CBD weed and make it yourself, you can do it at various temperatures to get various effects. I'm very lucky.
Or a broad spectrum to have the other cannabinoids, because the cannabinoids provide a balance, and that's the main thing. You know, like we was talking about before the show, isolated cannabinoids by themselves, so THC by itself, CBD by itself, is lacking what a lot of these compounds can do together. And, you know, these broad spectrums, they do play well. And I know you talk about THC 1-to-1, but there are the other cannabinoids in there, and they can't, you know, like it's important to know that balance of entourage, you know, that entourage balance of cannabinoids, the entourage effects as it's known, is important. So it kind of gives a bit more balance to the products as well.
Yeah, well, CBGA, 1-to-1 CBGA to CBG is something I spent the last year experimenting with, and that seems to have some absolutely remarkable results, and it's more effective when mixed with other cannabinoids. So for the last year, I've been mixing 1-to-1 CBGA to CBG oil with all the other cannabinoids I'm using, and it is quite remarkable.
It's the mother, though, isn't it, Sarah? CBGA is like the mother of them all.
It has remarkable effects, including analgesic effects.
Exactly. As in Game of Thrones, she would be called Misa, mother.
I've got to be honest, I haven't watched Game
And that's also a soup.
What miso is
No,
a
it's miso,
soup.
isn't it?
Exactly.
I just want to say this very quickly because we're drawing up to the end. First of all, thank you so much for coming onto the show, especially if you weren't feeling great today.
Thank you.
Anybody who's watching this and goes, you know, oh, these things are illegal, just listen to Sarah Godfrey's story. Just listen to that story. How can you let anybody suffer like that? You won't let your dog suffer like that. So anything to alleviate that pain and that horror that this extraordinarily brave woman has gone through has got to be a good thing. That's just my personal opinion.
Russ has been converted. I love it. I love it. 37 weeks and Russ is like Mr. Activist.
We'll discuss
now.
this next week. All right. Same time next week. We've got to go. Until then, stay safe, everybody.
God bless you, Sarah. You're a superstar.
Thank you
Thank you so much.